Vasiliy Antonovich Antonov was born on the 28th of February 1875 to a peasant's family. In earlier sources, the village of Karenevskaya of Kuban Cossack warrior host was mentioned as his birthplace, while in later ones, the village of Simanovo of Toropets County of Tver province. In his youth, Vasily finished a town 5-class college. Nothing is known about the life of Vasiliy Antonov until 1927. Vasiliy Antonovich Antonov began his confessional cross-bearing during post-revolutionary times of trouble, widespread persecution of the Orthodox Church and faith, the decay of religious traditions, as well as the church stratification. After finishing Petrograd Seminary, Vasiliy Antonov married maiden Pelageya Georgievna Butrakova, and in 1927 was ordained a deacon to the Church of the Intercession of Virgin Mary of the village of Alferyevo of Pereslavl district of Yaroslavl region. On the 23rd of January the following year, Father Vasily was ordained a priest to the Church of St. Nicholas the Miracle Maker in the village of Skobleva of the same district. At St. Nicholas Church, priest Vasiliy Antonov served for more than a year, and in February 1929 moved to Ruza district of Moscow region, starting to serve at the Church of the Icon of Our Lady of Kazan in the village of Gorbova. Later, possibly after the Church of the Icon of Our Lady of Kazan was closed, Father Vasily began to serve at the Church of the Icon of Our Lady of the Sign in the village of Komleva, replacing there arrested archpriest Semyon Lepedevsky. In 1935, according to the petition of the faithful, priest Vasiliy Antonov was appointed to the Church of the Intercession of Virgin Mary of the village of Pokrovskaya Sheremetyevo of the same district. According to the materials of the archive investigation case, the faithful knew the clergyman since the time when he served in the village of Gorbova of Ruza district, while they were parishioners there. The priest preached almost every Sunday despite the prohibition from the authorities. According to his own words, the clergyman wrote sermons himself, making samples from the Holy Writ. Moreover, Father Vasiliy Antonov went across the parish, having talks and gathering the faithful. As witnesses testified, the priest said that soon in any case the Soviet authorities would close the church, while faithful people would be persecuted. He gave the examples. Look, bells were taken off. It is the premise of closure of the church. Also, Pope Antonov was said to be a friend of Pope of the Church of St. Nicholas the Miracle Maker of the village of Nikolskaya, Valentin Kulikov. They visited each other. In 1935, Pope Valentin Kulikov was arrested, while Pope Antonov resented bitterly this fact. According to the materials of the archive investigation case, in September the same year, priest Vasiliy Antonov told people, "If you, the faithful, support, the church will exist for 2 more years. If you do not, it will be closed by the Bolsheviks." In March 1936, somebody denounced Father Vasily, testifying that the priest agitated in the anti-Soviet way among collective farmers of the village, distributing counter-revolutionary leaflets, meaning the booklet Christianity and Socialism, issued in 1918 and found during the search in the house of the clergyman. On the 28th of March 1936, priest Vasiliy Antonovich Antonov was arrested by the NKVD of Ruza district, being imprisoned in Mozhaisk. At the moment of the arrest, the priest lived in the town of Ruza, while his family consisted only of his wife, Pelageya Georgievna, aged 34. In the column of property it was written that Father Vasily had nothing. The 61-year-old clergyman was accused of his sermons. For example, on the 14th of October 1935 he preached, "Our orthodoxy is encircled by enemies, like earlier it was beneath the yoke of Turkish aliens. And the orthodoxy was saved by Virgin Mary, who made sign, and the enemy disappeared. The same will happen now. Soon Our Lady will appear and scatter all the enemies of the Russian Orthodoxy." On the 15th of March 1936, priest Vasiliy Antonov preached, "Faithful people began to forget the Church and stopped being Christians. The reason of it is that now the time of Antichrist has come. Orthodox people have entered a kolkhoz. You lend yourself to it, without knowledge of the fact that collective farms will bring nothing to you. I call you on not to go to a kolkhoz on big holidays, going to a church instead." On the 16th of May 1936, the rural dean of Ruza district, Archpriest Ion Beroskin, gave his evidence against Father Vasiliy. Antonov has anti-Soviet point of view. It is proved by the following. In the end of March at my place, talking about taxes of the church and clergy, Antonov declared, "Now Russian clergy has a hard time. We are heavily taxed by the Soviet authorities. As a result, churches are being closed, while we have nothing to live upon. In one word, the Soviet regime is the persecution of Christ." Also, if the collective farms had not existed, the churches would not have been closed, while we would have lived better. In these collective farms, peasants are made to work on holidays. Moreover, Antonov demanded from his parishioners things that are opposite the laws of the Soviet authorities. For example, he did not allow to take Holy Communion people if they were married at a registry. All these facts were told to me as a rural dean by some of his parishioners who came to me with complaints in the end of February 1936. During the confrontation, Father Vasiliy confirmed that he preached, but his sermons were not anti-Soviet. Answering the question of the interrogator about the reasons of his anti-Soviet talks about the policy of the Soviet authorities, the prior of the Intercession Church said, "It is due to the fact that Soviet authorities heavily oppressed churches with taxes, preventing people from going to churches, while now only cripples and ill people go to churches, providing no benefit. I plead guilty in these words." In the indictment of Father Vasiliy it was written, "Being alien towards the Soviet authorities and their events, Antonov Vasiliy Antonovich is engaged in anti-Soviet activity, preaching and calling people on at the church, as well as provocative gossips about the closure of churches by the Soviet authorities. While performing religious rites, he brought discredit on the laws of the Soviet authorities connected with civil marriage, distributed the booklet Christianity and Socialism by Kondratiev." Being questioned as an indicted, Antonov Vasiliy Antonovich pleaded guilty, only denying the fact of distributing a counter-revolutionary leaflet. He said that kept it for personal advantage. His guilt was proved enough, both by the testimony of witnesses and during the confrontation. On the 17th of June, the case was sent to the special meeting of the NKVD of USSR to review. Despite the fact that in the column of health conditions of the priest it was written that he was ill, and in the reference from the hospital of Ruza it was pointed out that Father Vasiliy, who had myocarditis and rheumatism, was not able to do hard work, on the 2nd of July 1936, according to the 58th article paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code of Russia, for counter-revolutionary agitation, by the special meeting of the NKVD of USSR, priest Vasiliy Antonovich Antonov was sentenced to 3 years of exile in the Northern Territory. The elderly clergyman served his sentence in Arkhangelsk region. And in 1939, when the term of his imprisonment ended, Father Vasiliy was forbidden to live in big cities, and he had to move to the town of Kovrov of Vladimir region, where at first he worked as a watchman in the kolkhoz. In 1943, all around the Soviet Union, undamaged churches were opened. The state decided to do it to use the authority of the Russian Orthodox Church in gathering money for the needs of the army. Soon the Patriarchate was restored, while a few survived clergymen returned from prisons and labor camps. Father Vasiliy Antonov began to serve at a newly opened church of St. John the Warrior of the town of Kovrov of Vladimir region, but already on the 13th of June 1945, according to the notorious 58th article, paragraph 10 of the Criminal Code of Russia, the priest was arrested along with his wife and sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment in the town of Vladimir. His wife was sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment. Her further fate is unknown. In 1950, 75-year-old priest Vasiliy Antonov was released. He began to live in the town of Kovrov. According to the unconfirmed information, on the 8th of December the same year, the elderly clergyman was arrested once again, being exiled to the village of Ploskaya of Kovrov district of Vladimir region. On the 18th of October 1991, priest Vasiliy Antonovich Antonov was rehabilitated.